Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a magnificent afternoon here in sunny South Africa. My name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got VM the Wildebeest, and we are coming to you live, which means that this is interactive, and you can use hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or the YouTube chat if you would like to ask any questions or just say hello from wherever you're watching. Now, it is a very hot afternoon, which means that we should have a situation where it would drive animals towards water, so we're going to meander our way around the water holes. I also want to try and follow up on all the leopard tracks that we had this morning. Well, the leopard track that we had this morning in the form of that male leopard. I did get some intel later in the drive that apparently there was a male leopard, probably Tingana, given that he was vocalizing, crossing the dam wall and then going down central at about 4 o'clock this morning. So it could have been his tracks that we were following. I think it is his tracks, in fact, that we were following, or that Herbie was following, should I say. We didn't really follow them very much. Herbie was doing most of the legwork, and so we're going to go and just check around and see where he could be. We know with Tingana he could have traveled quite a long distance, but that will be kind of our game plan for this afternoon. I wonder if he maybe isn't checking up on Tundi. Maybe the two of them are even together. So it promises to be a good afternoon, and hopefully lots of fun to be had as we negotiate the rather warm African wilderness this afternoon. I'm hoping though also that the sun will start to go down quite quickly. It feels as though it is extremely hot today. I don't know why. It just feels like there's a lot more spike in the sun. And I was looking at the weather forecast for the rest of this week, and well, it's not getting any better. The temperature is just steadily escalating, culminating into a beautiful 41 degrees by Friday afternoon. Now 41 is about, I think it's about 110 Fahrenheit, somewhere there, 109, somewhere there. So it's going to be seriously warm by Friday, and so we're going to just have to brace ourselves for a slow escalation in heat. Hopefully it doesn't get too bad though, and then I believe we are going to get some rain, which will be quite wonderful to get, just to green up everything a little bit further and to continue all of the sort of summer colors that are slowly but surely coming out. Now I'm going to go quickly do our time lapse for Sebastian, and so while I do that, let's go across to my good friend Scott Dyson, who's out and about, and I believe he's got some feathered friends.
Feathered friends, live.
We certainly do have some feathered friends. These are grey hornbills, and we very seldomly see hornbills here in the Mara. And I just love the way they fly. A few wing beats, and then a glide, and then a few more wing beats, and then another glide, kind of up and down, up and down. As you can see, we've got a bit of a gloomy afternoon here in the Masai Mara in Kenya, unlike the hot and sunny Djuma where Tristan is, and I can feel his pain. It can get very hot and humid down in that part of the world. Here we're far more lucky. We're at a higher altitude, and it doesn't get as hot and sticky right here. My name is Scott, and I'm teamed up with Ferg on camera. Now, there's a few drops of rain that have started to fall. You may see a slight shimmering on the dusty dashboard over here, and I'm not certain whether we should drop the flaps and continue, which I think is our kind of only option. Even though it's hardly raining, as we drive all the rain comes into the car, and sadly the wind seems to be blowing into us. So we're probably going to do that and then try get into an area further along to our right. We're going to follow this escarpment range. It heads north-south, and there's a pride of lions that like to hang around along the edge of that escarpment called the Sausage Tree Pride, and that is the area we are going to start searching for them. Where are we looking now? I'm not too sure. I wasn't out this morning. I don't think there was any sign of them, but that's not to say they're not going to pop up this afternoon, or that something else may pop up in that area. So that is our plans. I'm not sure exactly what Tayla is going to get up to. She is going to be the second vehicle. Oh, I've left my comms open. Sorry about that. So you would have heard Faith's voice there. She's one of our new Kenyan directors, and she's doing a great job so far. Don't you like the sound of her voice? I certainly do. Okay, well, like I said, I'm not too sure what Tayla's plans are, so why don't you hop on board with her and find out where she plans on searching and what she intends on trying to find you.
Scott, I actually don't know what I'm doing this afternoon. My name is Tayla, and on camera with me today is Sebastian, and like Tristan and like Scott have already said, this is live, this is interactive, this is happening right now. So please join us or join in the conversation. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can chat to us via the YouTube chat. Now you may see something in front of us. It's the Olololo Gate, so one of the entrances into the Mara Triangle. And it doesn't seem like there's anybody coming in, but soon there's going to be a long, that's Afrikaans. Why did I even say long line of cars exiting it. So we decided to do something a little bit different. We have decided to go back towards the Mara River, and remember a couple of days, or almost a week ago now I would say, Sebastian and I had that wonderful sighting with the hippo that was dead, and the hyenas were feeding off it on the edge of the Mara River. I want to go see if there's any bones left, how far they've dragged the carcass, and just sort of have a little squiz around there. Maybe we find a few lions. I haven't been around here for a couple of days now, so I don't know what's happening this end, but I do like it. It can be quite productive, and already, which we'll get around to eventually, starting to see some of the plains again. So we're starting to already see elephants and buffalo popping out, and that's because this area has had so much rain. If you go back and look at screenshots from when I have driven around in this area, you looked a little bit desert-like, but now it's completely different. The grass is growing, it's gone from yellow to green. It's quite nice down here at the moment, which is great. I'm just scanning because there are three lionesses that like to hang around here, and sometimes I have actually seen them up this close to the gate before. There's nothing stopping them just walking out and along the main road either, except for the fact that it's probably safer for them to stay in the reserve. Okay, so we've actually got some elephants. I'm going to Ferrari safari it a little bit just to get up to this herd of elephants. It looks like there's some Topi, maybe the odd zebra as well. And the rain is now coming down, starting to drizzle, which is not great. Jane, you're exclaiming yay and hoping that we find elephants. We found them. I'm just trying to get a better view of them, and then I'll show you. You give me 35.5 seconds, I'll be there. I'll be showing you elephants. I just want to get a decentish spot. And I'm going to find that spot. I see a road, but where does that road come out? Okay, we'll just have a quick look here. We'll just have a very quick look. It's not the nicest sighting of elephants that we've ever had because they're quite far away. But it's okay, they're elephants nonetheless, and elephants are beautiful creatures. So I'm reading this book at the moment, and it's fantastic. I can't put it down. And we obviously talk about quite regularly how elephants can travel, and the fact that they are built for traveling long distances. And I read a statistic that there was an elephant that was once collared, and they tracked her for 2 years. And in those 2 years, she managed to travel 32,000 kilometers, which is a huge distance. It's the longest and longest distance that an elephant has ever been recorded going. Obviously, they just haven't put collars and followed them as extensively. And if I'm not mistaken, this was in the Botswana region, and the elephant went all the way to Angola. It was just moving around all over the show, following old migratory paths. So that's really, really amazing. I would love to put a collar or GPS of some sort of an elephant in Kenya, and particularly here in the Mara that's got, free reign. It can go into Tanzania. It can move around wherever they want and see exactly where they go. I think that would be absolutely fascinating. I'm kind of envious of the researchers out here. I suppose we're a little bit like researchers if you think about it, because we sit with these animals for such a long time, and we get to see some amazing things. For example, we're allowed out at night. No one else is allowed out at night in the Mara Triangle or the Mara National Reserve, besides, of course, the anti-poaching teams. But the researchers don't even have those special privileges like we do. So we get to see so much. It's definitely something I'd like to do, is follow elephants around. It would be quite nice. And a couple of Topi just in and amongst them. And of course, it wouldn't be a safari without a zebra, now would it? I feel as though they're iconic creatures when you come out to the bush. Some oxpeckers also just sitting about on the zebra. Not doing too much, not even feeding. All flattened out, obviously not enjoying the cooler weather. It was so warm today. It was a lovely day, slightly overcast, and I can't believe how quickly the temperature has dropped. Again, it's not freezing, but we're sissies, and I've got my big jacket on, my big raincoat on. Well, that's obviously a boy elephant, a male, a young boy. Looks like just a small family group here, probably mom and her various offsprings, which is the most common sighting of elephants or groups of elephants that we see out here. It's not necessarily big herds, just individual sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Goldfish memory. It's a problem. Oh, there we go. That looks like the cow on the right, happily grazing away. And probably heading towards either the river line, there's quite a few trees, or maybe even up towards the escarpment. It's a bit hard to say. Oh, they're moving very, very slowly at the moment. Oh, okay, these guys want to get past us. Yeah. There's another group of guides from and beyond that are just driving past. Shame. Everyone is so, I must say, they're so polite out here in terms of giving us right of way most of the time if we are in a sighting and are filming something, and they'll often just sit and wait for us to go through, which is quite nice. Very cool. Now, I'm not sure if I heard this correctly, but I think, yes, I'm getting a countdown now, so that must mean that I'm going to be sending you all the way to South Africa, where I believe they're having an exceptionally hot day.
Antelope that we get out in this part of the world, and it is a beautiful Nyala bull. I really like these Nyala bulls. It seems as though just the one individual by himself. I would have thought that sometimes you get little bachelor herds that form together, and if not, then generally a male is following in some female's footsteps, but just the one individual by himself, and he really is an impressive individual. He's got these massive horns coming off of his head and a long, fluffy, shaggy coat, which means that he must be an individual that really does go after females and is a fairly dominant male within this area. Now you can see why they spend time in areas like what we're in now. We're down in a little dip, and there's some shade and there's some sort of dappled light, and that dark brown coloration with those white sort of markings just help to really blend this guy into his environment. Even the horns themselves almost resemble branches in the way that they twist and turn, and then those little white tips as well just help to kind of provide a bit of a sort of camouflage pattern, if you'd like, into those horns as well. Even though that's not the primary reason why they have those white tips, I would imagine that it does help with camouflaging them just that much more and helping just to blend that horn in a little bit better. And you'll find that these guys generally at this time of the day when it's so hot are going to be in these thickets where there's a lot of shade. They're going to try and find shade, much like most of the animals. In fact, we saw some impalas just now in quarantine, and they were just going from marula to marula trying to get any little bit of shade that they can. It's scorching in the sun, and being an antelope species or any animal that's got a hair covering like that, it must be very uncomfortable to be out in the sunshine itself. So he's going to just try and seek some shade. What you can also see is that this animal is known to be a browser, so that generally means that it should be feeding off leaves. But you can see this antelope was actually grazing a little bit as well. So there's some nice new green grass that's growing, and that's perfect for a Nyala to feed off. So they sometimes will abandon their browsing nature just to feed a little bit off the grass. Now, Wendy, you say you love Nyala. They're one of your favorite antelopes. They are incredibly beautiful, aren't they? Even the females. The males look completely different, but they both have their own kind of uniqueness, and there's beauty in both of them. I really do like them, and I feel like the difference between the two adds to the kind of mystery of a Nyala and its sort of secretive ways as it moves around in these dense thickets. There's just something about them. I always think that they could be a character in something like the Narnia novels, and in the land of Narnia. You can imagine this big antelope walking around, and I would imagine they'd also have a very deep voice if they could speak. I don't know why, but that's always what I think about them when I do see them. They're almost mystical fantasy kind of characters. So, Romit, you would like to know exactly how much this Nyala bull weighs. Now, I must be honest, I'm actually just drawing a blank, but if I had to guess at this stage, I would say it probably weighs about 120 kilograms, so probably close to 250 pounds, but I'm gonna just double check for you so that we don't get this completely wrong, and because my memory is so poor, we need to just remind myself at times. Now, I get the these situations where, for some reason, I don't know why, I just draw blanks in it. Maybe it's because at the moment I'm probably quite high, given that I sprayed petrol all over myself about 20 minutes ago, and I'm absolutely covered in this stuff. So I smell like petrol. Its fumes are wafting up into my nose, so maybe that's aiding in the reason why I actually can't remember the weight of a Nyala. It should be fairly simple though, but there we go. I'm completely wrong. Why am I even saying 100 kilograms? I don't know why I would say that. That's completely absolute madness. So a male of that size is probably going to weigh about 60 kilograms. Don't know what's wrong with me this afternoon. But on fumes of petrol, I'll be a little bit. He's gone into shade and we're going to carry on now. To try and head towards Treehouse Dam to continue on our time-lapse process. There's a few little male Nyalas in front of us, male impalas in front of us that are crossing to the west, and so I wonder if they're going towards Treehouse Dam for an afternoon drink. Now, while I negotiate the roads to get to Treehouse Dam and see what else I can find in that area, let's go back to Scotty D, who's got himself another feathered friend that he wants to show all of you.
Yes, we do indeed have another feathered friend, one of my favorites, the Hammerkop. And the reason why they are one of my favorites is not only because of their interest. Hammerkop, it means hammerhead in Dutch or Afrikaans. But I love the way they hunt. And if we're lucky, we'll see it start using its toes to sift through the water looking for prey. And as soon as they feel a little movement on their toes, they crash in with their beak at whatever caused that movement. It seems like it seems to be picking out smaller prey though, so it's using a different hunting technique. I don't know if it's feeding on small insects that may have hatched into this pond. Hello. What are you looking at? It'd be interesting to see what its head looks like without all those feathers. I guess it would just be a normal shape. It's just the feathers that have that hammer-like appearance. Very good. Well, thankfully the drizzle has stopped and we've managed to cover some ground, and we are starting to work the area where we could find the sausage tree pride. Roshni, you've just mentioned how you would love this Hammerkop to start hunting like one of the sightings you've shared with myself in the past, and me too. A good sign that we're in the area of the sausage pride is an old carcass over there. That's a buffalo that they killed not too long ago. Some of you may remember an epic morning of us waiting for some vultures to come in and snack on the remains once the lions moved off. It was a very good morning for vulture viewing. So good evidence that we're in the right area, but of course, like lions all over Africa, they don't live in a small area. They could be a few miles from here. So we shall continue to peruse these plains and see if we don't have any luck. So this is going to be my last drive before I head off tomorrow on an adventure. I cannot wait. I'm going to be spending a couple nights in Nairobi, which to be honest isn't the most fun. And I'm not a big city person, and Nairobi doesn't have a huge amount to offer somebody with my hobbies and interests. But it'll be good to spend a little bit of time there, stock up on a few little bits and pieces that I may need, and then I'm going camping in the Aberdare Mountains, which is just north of Nairobi, between kind of Nairobi and Mount Kenya. It's an incredibly beautiful national park with very strange African wilderness because of the very high altitude. Ooh, let's just drop down in here. Oop, there we go. As you can see, these roads don't do very well in the rain. This little rut is about a foot deep. So imagine if you start trying to drive off the road, you can get yourself into trouble very, very quickly. Anyway, looking forward to the other days and a week off, but just to let you guys know that I'm going to be off the safari waves for a week. I'll be back at the end of the month. Very good. Well, we're going to send you now back across to Tayla to see what she's getting up to.
At the moment we're just driving, we're still trying to get towards the Mara lip. Be prepared. So we are making our way towards the Mara River, and you can see, obviously when you stare across, you can quite easily pick out the river from just the dense belt of trees. And maybe we'll do a bit of birding today as well. Keep an eye out for some barbets. Would be quite nice. I think we're just going to take it easy today and just see what the bush has to offer us. You know, sometimes it is nice just to drive around and appreciate the sort of smaller things. Obviously we're also driven at the moment because there is so much action happening around, but the triangle's so quiet. It's, you know, bustling across the river. I'm quite excited to head across the river again and perhaps spend some time with the cheetahs during the day, because I've done a little bit, but I haven't done it as much as I'd like to have, but I've still got plenty of time. There's no rushing into it, is it? I'm enjoying all the lion sightings and the leopard sightings too. I didn't think I'd actually would have had so many up here in the Mara. That was not an animal I was coming to see. You know, it was even featuring on my list because it's the spoilt and the Sabi sand, but I'll take them. I will most certainly take them. But now you can see, look how it's all changed. It's short green grass here. The animals will be very excited by this. Hippos especially, we're going to see lots of buffalo around here. And zebra, they're always in though. They don't care what type of grass they eat or how long the grass or short the grass is. They just munch away as long as they're getting food into their bellies. That's all that matters. And Seb, anything in particular that you would like to see tonight? Or should we try and find? We still need to get you a serval. That's quite correct. Okay, so we'll try and do that then. I don't know where the serval have been. I mean, when I first arrived, sure, they were everywhere. You couldn't go on a game drive without seeing a serval, and now they've all disappeared. But maybe we get lucky tonight. It's good. I think it's going to be good hunting weather for the cats. The clouds are coming over. It's going to be dark, and I think we're going to get a little bit of rain later. There seems to be quite a bit of rain in the northeast, those sort of conservancies. We need all of it, and enjoying seeing all the rain. VW, you're wondering where the baboons are. They're around. They're somewhere around here. Actually, this is a good spot, so there we go. That's another animal that we can add to our list. I love spending time with the baboons. It's really quite interesting. Actually, my favorite troop of baboons is the one that go through to get back around just down there, and there's a troop that hangs around in that area. That's actually quite cool. They're very relaxed. They sit around the cars. They're not too bothered. And there's a spot where obviously all the Ascaris, I've now lost the road. I don't even know where the road's gone anymore. I think we'll get to one here. They get washed away, all the grass is just growing too quickly. Anyway, so they've got their like washing up rack where they'll wash all their pans and things, and then they put them out to dry. And it's so funny seeing the baboons sitting around there. One day I just want to see one holding a pot. I think that could be quite humorous to watch it. Maybe make it look like as if they were, well, using the pot or cooking away. That'd be quite cool. I don't know if I'm on a road anymore. We'll just go with it though, but this kind of feels familiar. See, what's one of those? There you go. Our national bird. There it is, just up over there. I suppose I should have just asked for something sooner. I can hear the rufous snape lark too. I don't think I've put one on camera yet. Funny little birds. That reminds me a lot of the Eastern Cape. The lilac breasted roller, however, reminds me of the Sabi sand. It's the bird that everybody wants to see when they come and visit. It seems to be raging at the moment. Maybe it's just because it's going over that very rocky section, sort of creating rapids. And this roller is going to be very excited in a minute because it's just starting to drizzle, and all the insect life is going to come out in abundance, and then it'll be swooping around filling its belly. Although I think after last night with all the alates and the variety of insects that were flying about, it can't be too full. I mean, it can't be too hungry, sorry. I definitely think... Hey, off it goes. Beautiful. Look, it's actually gone to try and catch an insect too. You get one? Oh, Guinea! It's quite nice. So the guinea fowl are actually moving just below the... Oh, look at them. They are hysterical. This is another animal that you have to spend time with. And for those of you that live in South Africa, they're all over the country. You see them a lot in Cape Town. They're in the parks. They are really, really, really fun to watch, where they chase each other around. And my favorite is to watch them pecking through and digging through dung middens. But again, they will also be very, very happy about the rain bringing all the insects out and about. But they eat a bit of everything. I think what they're going for now, the fact that they're chasing after and then beaks to the ground, must mean that there's some flying insects or even some grasshoppers just moving about. These are the helmeted guinea fowls. I still haven't seen... Ooh, that just took off. How they're hysterical. I still haven't seen the vulturine guinea fowls in the wild, which I'd like to. Look at them go. Now, take care. You're wondering if the soil is high in clay. Rocky here. As soon as you move towards pretty much below the escarpment, there's quite a bit of clay, which is not great, obviously, for driving on roads. All those black cotton soils. So no. And you know what I also haven't seen and what I miss? I miss the sandy areas. These soils. Martin sitting in FC, who is also the birthday boy. So for those of you who haven't heard of Martin has just recently joined the Wild Earth team as a technical genius. So Alex is teaching him the ropes now, our Russian genius. And it's also his birthday. Happy 24th birthday, Martin. Whoop whoop. And you were wondering, can guinea fowl fly? They can. They can indeed fly. They don't fly particularly well, though. They will roost in trees at night, so that's a safe spot for them to sleep. Well, sometimes, not always. And they fly like a chicken, if I had to describe it. So when they need to, but they spend most of their time on the ground. They don't feed on the wings, so they don't feed while they're in flight. They have to forage on the floor. Well, who knows? Maybe they peck something while they're in the tree, but I doubt it, because it's normally nighttime. Very busy. Must be answer term. Maybe there's some seeds on the ground too. This is my mom's favorite bird. I think I've told most of you that. She loves it, and I'll never forget as a kid. I must remind her this when I see her again. She used to have a guinea fowl t-shirt. Literally, it was just a t-shirt that was black with white spots on. And she would wear that every single time we'd go to Kruger. And it's just a fond memory. When I see these birds, it reminds me of my mom. And that shirt. Oh, they are so cool. It's a pity they're not having any sort of domestics amongst one another, because it's hysterical to watch. Have these keeping nice and dry.
Now, sorry about that, guys. My comms were breaking up a little bit, so I didn't realize that we were live. But we were driving in silence and just wondering what's going on and thinking about where my next move is going to be, because I'm just trying to think, if I was any sort of animal, where would I be if I'm not at Twin Dams? Because I am approaching Twin Dams now, and if there's nothing here, I was just trying to think of my next move from there. So, still not 100% sure yet. I think maybe meander along the Mulawati seems like a good idea, given that it's quite warm. And if nothing here, then I think we're going to go Mulawati, then maybe go up around Central, see if there's those tracks for that leopard that came north last night, and if there's nothing there, then I think maybe Chitwa is not a bad place this afternoon. I think maybe Chitwa might yield some good results, particularly in the elephant world. Maybe there will be some Ellies around Chitwa Dam, and if it's not, well, just being there around sunset is always such a spectacular, wonderful thing to be doing. So I think that's my plan for the rest of the afternoon. Guinea fowl in the Mara and some Guinea fowl all down here in South Africa. And you'll see that I think Tayla had the same species of Guinea fowl, the helmeted Guinea fowl, which is the one with the nice big blue head and the little helmet on top. And you can see they've got those grey feathers with those little white spots on them. Time already gone. Now there is my favorite Guinea fowl, occurs actually in Kenya, and it's I've been fortunate enough to see them in real life in the wild, and you see them in Tsavo East National Park, and they're called vulturine Guinea fowl, and they have these electric blue feathers that come from the head and go down the chest and around the shoulder areas. It really is the most spectacular color that comes off them. It almost reminds me a little bit of the lilac breasted rollers color in the way that it comes down off the neck, and very, very pretty indeed. So there's a bird that hopefully one day we'll be able to show all of you at some stage. I don't think we'll ever get into Tsavo East National Park for any reason if we've got the Mara, but you never know. Hopefully one day we can bring them onto the screens themselves. Now, with these guys being here at Twin Dams, I highly doubt there's going to be any leopard lurking here. We'll probably find a situation that there's not much going on. These guys seem really relaxed. But actually, there's a leopard, as I say it right now. It's just a view, but that's just ridiculous. Well done, VM, spotted. So that was going to happen, and maybe just this noise of the car has triggered this leopard to come very see. Looks like our boy. Is it one of our boys? Hello, boy. Where have you been?
Hello everyone, and exciting stuff. Well done to Tristan for finding that leopard. Let's hope he manages to find some signal now. Speaking of finding things, these elephants are doing their best to find the falling fruits from the balanites trees, and these two have been racing one another from tree to try and see who can gobble up the fruits first. They sadly aren't big enough to shake the trees like some bulls or possibly their mother. So we haven't seen them doing that yet, sadly. It's one of my favorite things to watch, is elephants shaking trees to... Some of you may remember a very interesting sighting we had back on Djuma, when the elephants were going from marula tree to marula tree seeking out marula fruits, and I plonked my little camera down right in front of a fruit that the elephant was heading towards, and he ended up picking up the camera and putting it in its mouth before tossing it out. They're small, kind of oblong fruits, about an inch long. We'll try and show you some once this Ellie's moved off. It's just a few meters away from the vehicle. And I love it when they are in these moods, going from tree to tree seeking out fruits, because as long as you position the vehicle in that area before they actually get there, they tend to kind of act like we're not even here. And literally, I would say I'm 3 meters away from this youngster at the moment. We're very nice and close, but because we were here before they arrived, it allowed us to join their party. What I would like to do is just swivel the vehicle slightly. Their mother, I'm guessing their mother, is an incredibly impressive female. She's got massive ivory, and she's scratching her ear, which actually might dislodge a few fruits. I don't think it's her goal here. I think it's an itch she's trying to relieve. What they do is they'll just put their forehead against the tree, usually when they try and shake it to get the fruits off, and just give it not a headbutt, but they just rock their body backwards and forwards, and their head is what is against the tree, front on. Isn't her ivory magnificent? Very big tusks for a lady. very, very good. Hello, young Max, just 6 years old. You would like to know if it's true that elephants never forget. Well, I think they may forget some things, but they certainly do have good memories. That can be said about them, and especially when knowing where to travel, where to get water, where to get food, because they live for quite a long time. Max, they can live for about 60 years, which is longer than most animals can live out here. Their memory helps them to build up experience over those years to know where to go, what to do, what's dangerous, what's not. So they certainly are very, very intelligent animals. But I'm not entirely certain that they can remember everything. That would be really incredible. Maybe they can. But I guess just like us, Max, you probably don't remember, your first few years on the planet when we were very young. And I'm guessing elephants might be in the same boat. Hi Justin, you would like to know how heavy would her tusks be? And it's usually the hunting professions that kind of would have a better idea of tusk weights because it's of interest to them. But a 100-pounder would be considered a very big elephant, a tusker with 100-pound tusks. And I guess that refers to just the one tusk, not both of them. So, although no, 50 kgs, would that be too heavy for a tusk? I'm actually not sure, Justin. I don't have the faintest idea how heavy they would be. Of course, their thickness has an impact on that. She's got fairly thick tusks for a female, but a bull of her size would ordinarily have far thicker tusks. But I am no expert in terms of gauging the weight of one. I've never been around a weighing of a tusk, so I've got nothing really to go off. Beautiful. We're going to let the elephants continue strolling off and send you back to Tayla.
The Mara River going over some of the rapids, so this is why we can hear it so loudly as it pounds over the beautiful rocks. Not flowing quite as fast as it was about a week ago. The water levels look like they've dropped slightly, but hopefully with this next set of rain coming in, it will fill the rivers up again. That's so cool. And like Seb said, we don't get to do that very often at Djuma, so it's quite nice. This spot must look very familiar for those of you who do follow and watch on a regular basis. So we're basically at the exact same spot where we had the hyenas feeding on the carcass, and it's just going to shuffle out the way from you. Do the matrix. Look how I can disappear so quickly. Isn't that amazing? I get one with my camera box and all the things that are down here next to me. That is the remnants of the hippo that we saw. Unfortunately, it's looking a little bit bare now. I think the vultures have been in, the hyenas, the jackal. Lots of different creatures would have come through here and fed, maybe even a couple of smaller crocodiles. You never really know. We of course were across the river, so we couldn't come, and we wanted to do time lapses here, in fact. And next time we find a hippo carcass, I think that Sebastian's onto something. I think it would be quite cool to put a camera down somewhere and do a time lapse and see what comes and visits firstly, and how quickly that carcass disappears, which will be fun, I think. And to the right of it, there's a baboon. There's a whole troop of baboons just sitting there. It looks like they're in a meeting at the moment. It's not very nice to scratch your bottom in a meeting. It's not very polite. Not doing much, not even foraging. Just sitting, relaxing, maybe listening. Well, they don't seem to be looking towards me at all. They're completely oblivious and don't really care. But that's a big male watching. And those are other males too, but look how superior he is. I mean, he's huge. Must be the chief baboon. all looking around. So even though they're just sitting there and relaxing, and we know how quickly baboons can scale trees, so they can escape from predators, the reaction time is not that of a tortoise. Baboon. What a beautiful looking boy. Even his demeanor about him. My goodness, he's really set a presence for himself this afternoon. But just across, they might scatter a little bit, but I think it's a big enough troop that there will be a couple around and we might be able to see them. You can't hear it, but there's one calling at the moment. Oh, and I was saying this morning that I didn't know what the baboons sounded like. It wasn't a big call. It was just like a sort of contact little chatter. Let's quickly go around. Let's have a look. Go, Mila. First gear, sometimes we don't get enough power to go anywhere, which is the problem. To rev. Okay, through this puddle of dirty water. Ooh, quite deep. And let's find the baboons again. Now, Wendy, you're wondering if the baboons here, the olive baboons, are bigger than the ones in South Africa. I presume you're talking about Chakma baboons. And no, I think the Chakma baboons are much larger. Even though these guys are fluffier, I don't think they quite weigh as much. If you shave that hair or you put them in the bath and let them jump into the river, they'd look like drowned rats. So no, I think the Chakma baboons are from me. Let me sneak around the corner. Not that you can really sneak in these cars. Oh, this is an incredible scene. Don't run. Please sit down. Please, Babs. Sit for us. A little bit nervous, just keeping their distance. So I'm also going to keep my distance from them. Some of them not too bothered, obviously, like we see with people. Some have a higher tolerance. And these guys obviously don't seem to feel as though we're a threat. The little one not hanging around. Not even staying with Mom, jumping ship straight away. Look at that, wiping your eyes. Did you just wake up from a nap, girl? You look like it. And then they're settling down again. So just a bit cautious. If you go to the Kruger National Park, the baboons sit right next to the cars, they don't move. Oh, there's a tiny one. Oh, there we go. Mom just picking that little one up, saying, hey, quickly, come. You're not quick enough to move around on your own. Hop on board. Oh, I'm glad we got to see our baboons. We'll see how it goes. This could be quite interesting, so we might stick around here. I haven't decided just yet. But Tristan, however, is on a roll as usual. I don't know how he does it. Maybe it's because he is covered in petrol that he attracts the leopards.
Off a nice shady spot. Hello, boy. Sorry, was I talking too loud? Did I give you a fright? I'm sorry. So he's got a little fright when I started talking. We've been sitting so nice and quietly watching him as he's been watching the guinea fowl running around all over the place here, and he's found himself a little bit of shade, which is the perfect spot to rest on a hot afternoon like this. He's got a nice shady area. There's lots of prey animals that potentially will come down and drink, so you'll find as it starts to cool off, things like impala, things like Nyala, they're going to come and drink here, and it is the prime place for a young leopard to be able to hone his skills in hunting. And we've already seen Hosana twice hunting from these water holes and trying to make use of places like Treehouse and Twin Dams to be able to stalk prey items that come for water in hot weather. So hopefully that will be this afternoon. We're going to be very patient and sit with him, even though he might be quite restful during the afternoon and he probably might sleep a little bit. You can see he's hot, he's panting, and I'm not surprised. He's got a little bit of a belly on him, and he has been walking. We've obviously found him and he was walking in this direction. Oh, nice big yawn. Hello, boy. And he's got a nice full belly, which means that I'm pretty sure he's hot. He's built up a lot of residual heat by spending time walking in this hot sunshine, and so I think he's going to be resting here probably for quite some time, unless something comes along that he wants to potentially stalk. So something like these guinea fowl that we saw earlier, they might be that the situation where he gets up and looks at them and tries to go after them, although most of them have drifted off now and he's still kind of nonplussed by it and he's still lying in the shade. Now I believe lots of you are super excited to see Hosana. Well, so am I. I've had not the best of days today. It's been a bit of an average day, and I was having a bit of a bad afternoon when the petrol spilled all over me, and I was thinking to myself, well, hopefully the bush will give us something to cheer us up, and you cannot get any more cheerful than a beautiful male leopard walking around in the afternoon as you come towards one of the more scenic spots in the reserve down towards the Mulawati and Twin Dam. So super excited that we managed to find him and managed to get him going to be able to spend the whole afternoon with him. The exciting thing is that he came around, he seems to be watching. So it seems to be a little bit on the restless side. On where are you going, Hosana? It's very hot. Maybe that's where he's deciding that he's going to lie. There was a branch right in his face, and so that's a little bit of a better position. You can see his little tongue is out, and that's all just to try and help him with cooling down a little bit. When the tongue is out like that and mouth is open, basically what's happening is there's a huge amount of evaporation that's taking place off the tongue. So as he's breathing, he's getting rid of moisture that's evaporating, and that causes a cooling effect on the blood, and that cooler blood then goes back into the body, and it just helps control his temperature. Remember, they can't sweat like us, and they also are covered in a fur coat. Now, if I was Hosana and I was covered in a fur coat this afternoon, I can tell you that I would be highly uncomfortable, and so there's no surprise that there is a little bit of a tongue hanging out and a little bit of a situation where he's panting and trying to just keep himself nice and cool. But isn't he just growing up into such a beautiful individual? Earlier when we saw him at first, he's starting to develop a bit of a dewlap. If you look at him now, you can actually see that neck is starting to get that typical male shape where it pretty much just goes straight up. There's not really much of a chin, so he's really developing in that regard. And because he's full-bellied, it's just making it that much better when we're seeing him. He's looking that much bigger and that much stronger and that much sort of more impressive. And the more I see Hosana, the more he's kind of growing on me, and the more he's developing into an incredible specimen, and one that hopefully will spend a lot more time around this area. Now, I know he is going to be sleepy. I know he's going to probably spend most of his afternoon in this position, but like I say, it's going to be worth being patient here. We know from previous experience that there are animals that drink at Twin Dams. It is a place that he likes to stalk animals from, and so for us, it's going to be worth sitting and waiting. We might end up with something really quite special if we do sit and wait here, and well, why would you want to go anywhere else at the end of the day, other than the fact that it's quite hot in the sun? It's still beautiful to be here. There's lots of birds that are going to call, and who knows what else is going to arrive at the dam as we continue our afternoon here at Twin Dams. But he seems to have settled down now. Most of the guinea fowl, like I say, have moved off. They're not making near as much noise as what they were earlier. Terry, you want to know how long leopards usually live for? Well, it depends. Male and females tend to live slightly different lengths of time. On average, in areas like this where there's a very high density of leopard, we find a situation where the male leopards normally live to about 12 to 14 years. Now, the reason why the males only live that long is because their life is very rough. They've got to go nomadic from their mom and find their own territory, which means they've got to cross multiple big males' paths and try and get away from those, as well as all kinds of other territory of their own. Once they've done that, they've then got to defend that territory from other rival males and nomadic males that might come in, and then later in life, when they reach that sort of 12, 13, 14 years, there's younger individuals that start to push in. These young, well-developed, big young individuals that are full of spirit, they come in and they want to start pushing those older males, and so you get a situation where those males will then push in, and those older ones get killed. So they tend to be a little bit shorter. Females a little bit longer, because they're not having to defend territory as much and try and force themselves to get an area. They're normally given a little section of their mom's territory to survive in. You end up with a situation where they normally go between sort of 14 and 16 years old. That's not always the case, though. We do see female leopards dying earlier than that, and we do see male leopards living longer than 14, but it's on average 12 to 14 for males, 14 to 16 for the females is typical for this area. If you go to places where there's a little bit less of a density, you might find that the males will live slightly longer and the females slightly longer, although here in the Sabi Sands, there's two of the oldest females that I've ever heard of in the wild have been seen. So there was one female that got to 20 and another one that got to 19 and a half, which is incredibly old, even in a zoo environment or a captive environment. And so those two really did an amazing job to get to that age. I I didn't do it. You're asking what a dewlap is, or explain what a dewlap is. Well, a dewlap here in South Africa is what we refer to the big fold of skin that runs underneath the chin of an animal. So buffalo males get it, big male leopards get it. You'll see it in even eland up in the Masai Mara. They get this fold of skin that starts to hang from the chin down towards the chest, and the older they get, the more that skin starts to hang, and it's almost like a way of showing females that they are big dominant individuals, and it's known as a dewlap. And you also get it in cows, funny enough, too. So it's more just a signal to other individuals within that species that this is an older, more dominant individual, and one that's in the prime of his life. When they get these big dewlaps, it serves to just make them appear larger, make them appear more sort of hostile, more, I suppose, brazen towards any other males, and they're more attractive to the females. So it's just, that's why they have it. There's no other physiological reason for it. I suppose it does help to protect a little bit in leopards. It will protect their necks if they're fighting with other males. It's a lot of loose skin, and so that male might bite towards that skin and not get hurt there. So it just depends on them. But in things like buffalo and eland, not so much. It's not really there to design to protect them from the jaws of another eland or buffalo. It's more just to show dominance towards females. But I think little Hosana is about to take a very, very long nap. Although there is another vehicle that is going to come join us at some stage, that would probably mean that he might just see him popping up his head every now and then. There's also a beautiful breeze that's just kicked up now. It's a nice cool breeze that's blowing, and it's coming straight towards us. So you might find every now and then he'll pick up a scent in that breeze or hear something, and he'll pop his head up and just scan around just to see what's going on. And so we might see a lot of sleeping for now, but as that sun starts to set, I'm pretty sure we might get some action. Now we're going to, like I say, be patient with Husana. I'm pretty sure at some point he is going to get up and he is going to move and potentially even maybe hunt around this waterhole. And while we do that, I believe Tayla McCurdy has had some luck of her own and has found a sleepy cat too.
Well, Tristan, we're quite lucky because at least lions, they're not solitary. They live in prides, as we know. But we've got 3 lionesses here, and at least one of them has got their heads up, because the other 2, you can't see the third one, though, because she's hiding under a bush behind the car. They're flat, fast asleep, just enjoying themselves. So these were the 3 lionesses that I was telling you about right at the beginning of the show that I was searching for. This is the first time I've actually seen them down here, and I've been waiting because it's a beautiful, beautiful spot. We're still right on the edge of the Mara River. Of course, we haven't gone far. This is that spot where we've looked at quite a few bee eaters before around here. I did quite a long segment on bee eaters. I'll never forget. That was so beautiful. The bird life is incredible, and it's all starting to become quite loud again now as the birds start chirping away for one last time. Something has caught that lioness's attention. Her ears are pricked forward, her eyes are very focused. I wonder what she's seen. Now, from this area that they're sitting in, it's quite dense in terms of tree thickets. Well, as tree thickets sort of go in the Mara, but behind the wall of trees is a huge open plain, and we saw the different animals that like to live out in the open plain. So I'm sure there's zebra, topi, maybe the odd wildebeest. Most certainly there'll be buffalo, probably a couple of warthogs grazing around the entrances to their burrows too, getting ready to go home. So there's a potential for them to take down any one of those creatures, and they're not very full. They're actually quite lean, so that's exciting, isn't it? I think that's going to be quite cool. So hopefully we'll stick around with them for the evening, and sooner rather than later I think they'll get up. They've already sort of been grooming, yawning up and down, so I think we got you at the right time. Viola, you said that these 2 lionesses look like the girls from The Lion King. I suppose they're very typical lion-drawn characters on The Lion King, but they're beautiful girls. I haven't seen them for a while. The last time I saw them was near the airstrip. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, they were sitting in amongst the luggers under the tree, so I think they like it. I can't believe she's just gone flat. Don't do that to me. I was just telling you how I thought that you were waking up. And lions do this. It's the most annoying thing in the whole world, where we're obviously taught and you watch, and once you observe, when cats start to wake up, they yawn, they roll around, they become quite restless, then they start grooming, and then they're up, unless you're a Birmingham boy, and then you just go from flat and, looking like you're dead to up and roaring and on a territory territorial patrol in about a split second. It's the most incredible thing you've ever seen. Most lions don't do that. But again, you can't give these animals rules. They just do whatever they want when they want. But there's one girl that's keen, so that's okay. As long as we've got one of them that's showing a bit of interest in something, and hopefully it will get the other girls up and going. Now, Ryan, you're wondering how fast can these lions run? Well, it depends on what they're chasing, and a couple of other things. But typically a lion can reach up to about 70 kilometers an hour, which is very fast, but they can't keep that speed up for a very long time. But that's okay. That's not what they're relying on. They're relying on stealth. You know, cheetah rely on speed and being able to run down their prey. Leopards and lions do something completely different. They ambush, they try and stalk right up to their prey as close as they possibly can to give them the best opportunity of catching. And I suppose it's quite difficult for any of you that ever try to sneak up and give somebody a fright. How many times have you been caught before you've actually given a fright? I'm sure more failed attempts than anything, and it's exactly the same with lions and leopards. Having to adapt that technique results in many failed attempts, and sometimes it is very hard to keep quiet. But out here, they'll use the cover of darkness, especially if they go hunting in the open area, because the grass is exceptionally short. We saw as we were driving around. There's not much cover for them. They've got cover here, they've got all the shrubs, they've got the luggers. Whether the prey is going to come into this thicket, I'm not sure. It would be ideal if a warthog came strolling through, they would be able to, but otherwise it's a bit hard. Seb, should I go up a bit further and see what it's like on the top? I haven't actually done much exploring. Let me reverse. Let me see where this other girl is and what she's doing. Let's have a quick... There, oh my goodness. Look in there, Seb. So we'll just quickly show you, there's this other girl who's tucked away under the trees. You would drive past her and completely miss her. And I think if they were all underneath her, we probably would have driven past and missed them because we're too busy yakking away about how cool the baboons were. But there is another lion. That's the third lioness that we were talking about. And there she sleeps. She doesn't look like she's going to wake up anytime. Now, Teresa, you're wondering about the pride of which group of lions this is. It's the breakaways. So we call them the Olololo females, but also the Angama pride is also the Olololo females. Let me drive up and around again. Let's just have a different view so maybe we can see something. So it's the three that have sort of broken away and spent some time on their own. You can see them together. Let's not drive over lion dung. We don't want to be doing that. It would be very stinky. Go up here. Can't see anything straight up. A couple of antelope and things, but let me get a great meal. There we go. Another view. Very nice though to see them. I'm quite happy that that's what we set out for and that's what we managed to find. It's not every day that the bush goes your way. See, they're not exhausted. I mean, these lions are very much habituated to the cars, so they're not worried about them at all. But the fact that when we're moving around, they're sort of sitting up makes me think that they want to get on the move, and it's cool enough. It is perfect temperature, except knowing these girls, they're probably going to try and hunt something at night. Well, again, they're opportunistic, so they could hunt something at any time and plop down even flatter than before. Wonderful. Got beautiful eyes. She looks like she's quite a young girl too. Now, Candy, you're wondering if I've ever seen an oxpecker on a lion. No, and that would be a very brave oxpecker. I've seen birds that I've seen around the big cats are... What are they? Starlings and things hopping about. Spur fowls and francolins getting too close to carcasses. Vultures are probably the ones that get the closest, but no oxpecker. An oxpecker knows not to sit on a lion and try and groom it. Lions are well capable of grooming themselves, and others help each other. And also, can you imagine trying to groom a young cub? If you were an oxpecker, you'd just get eaten. Or they'd try to. So no, I have never. What I have seen though, and I'm trying to remember if it was a documentary I watched or if it was a video on YouTube or Facebook or something along those lines, but it was a video of lions laying up on a rocky outcrop. Ooh, they've just jumped. I've just heard something. The other lioness that was laying flat spun around quicker than... Oh, I see why. I see that girl has gotten up under the trees, so they were looking at her. Sorry, I've just got severely distracted. And then I saw that I think there were Angamas or girdled lizards of some sort. I just can't remember the footage quite well. And these reptiles were basically going around trying to get all the parasites and flies and things that were attracted to the lions. And they were jumping on the lions. It was so funny. Obviously, they weren't tolerant of them. They'd thrash around when one would be sitting on its back. It was quite nice to see that interaction. I'd love to see something done in real life, but I just can't remember where it was. So if any of you have also seen that movie before, or clip or whatever it may have been, hashtag Safari Live, let me know, tag me in it, because I would like to watch the whole thing again. It was quite interesting. So they're just watching the other girl. I can't see where she's gone, but she's moved up from her shrub that she was laying under. But now she's gone into the distance. Now, Linda, you're wondering how far away can a lion sort of smell a carcass or its prey? I think it depends on the wind direction as well. They've got an incredible sense of smell. However, if they do have the wind in their favor, that helps quite a bit. She's looking at, there's a Topi. I was just about to say, I can see the Topi on the other side, and a windmill, in case you saw that turning too. There it is. So very good. But what's really amazing, Linda, is the combination of senses that they will use. So not just relying on sense of smell. So say if there's a carcass about, they might not even smell it, but they might see the vultures in the sky circling and starting to dive towards it. And I've watched the Southern Pride before, which is a pride of lions that I actually believe just arrived back in the Sabi sand today. They'd been spending most of their time in Kruger for, I think, the last 6.5 weeks, a friend of mine was telling me. And I'll never forget, on an open area, I just saw this pride of lions running like I've never seen them run before. And I saw, okay, there's vultures diving. Anyway, and they went to a carcass. It was in the thicket, so we couldn't really see what it was. It was also during lambing season, though, so it could have really been anything. Could have been just vultures diving down onto leftover the afterbirth. But it was very cool. So they'll do that, and then they'll respond to things like that too. And obviously, as they get closer, the scent will get stronger and stronger. So they rely on their eyesight and their sense of smell. And then, of course, their hearing. Hearing is very important. If you hear a distress call, you're going to go charging on in, or you hear a squabble of other predators. If you're a lion, you're probably going to go and investigate. We're most certainly not going to move from these cats. I think this is the spot to be this evening. And I think we're going to play exactly the same game that Tristan is playing, which is the patience game. And it's the one that we all struggle with.
The guinea fowl flock has just arrived back, and Hosana has just woken up, and they're not very far at all. They're all one by one filing down towards the water for a little drink, and their kind of attention is going to be so focused on drinking water and avoiding crocodiles and various other things. You can see there they are coming down to drink, and I wonder if little Hosana might decide to try and stalk in behind them. He's definitely adjusted his position. He was fast asleep, and he rolled over, and his one eye opened, and he noticed these guinea fowl coming past, and he changed position a little bit, and you can see he's shoved himself into that bush a little bit more, just in order to be able to camouflage a bit better. And you can see him watching these guinea fowl, just trying to work out where exactly he can position himself in order to hunt them. All the guinea fowl are slowly but surely making their way to water, and why not? It's a hot afternoon, and so you would imagine that these guys would love a bit of a drink of water. So there's some of them on the bank itself, and then the rest of them you can see are all lined up there. So I wonder if he's not going to wait for the rest of that flock to come down towards the water source itself, and then he can try and stalk on this bank and try and get down to them. Although I think these guinea fowl, there's enough of them to be able to spot Hosana in an open section like this. At the end of the day, it is very open here. There's not too much cover for this little male leopard to be able to stalk towards those guinea fowls. So I think he's unfortunately just going to have to sit tight and just be happy with staring at us. Look at that, isn't he beautiful? His eyes seem to be changing color. Instead of getting lighter, they seem to be almost getting darker. Beautiful. So Tula Ann, who's 5 years old. Hello Tula Ann, long time no here, and I hope that you're having a wonderful day. You also want to know, Hosana is getting so big. Is it because he's taking everybody else's food? Well, Tula Ann, it seems that way. Hosana seems to be stealing everyone's food. We've seen him stealing Shadow's food, we've seen him stealing Tandi's food, he's even stolen a little bit of Tingana's food. So get to the age where male leopards grow like still around this area and his mom was still alive, that he would have to start going on his own, and that means they've got to grow quickly so that they can basically find their own territory and defend themselves against other male leopards. But him finding nutrients from other leopards is definitely helping in him growing and getting bigger. He's being a little bit of a piggy, isn't he? But that's okay, we'll give it to him. If he's able to do it, then why not? At the end of the day, we're rooting for our young man. He had a tough sort of start to life with his mom disappearing, and so if he takes a few males from his older sisters and from his father, well, that's okay. We'll have to give it to him and let him have it. It's all in the name of him surviving and continuing the bloodline. And at the end of the day, it's also been all completely non-sort of aggressive interaction, so they haven't fought at all the times that he's gone after food items from other leopards. He hasn't fought with them, so that's okay, as long as there's no aggression, then everything is fine. Oh, there we go, he's decided no guinea fowl. Tristan would rather go for a sundowner hunt, I would imagine. It really is starting to get blazingly hot. The sun is at an angle now where it's hitting us pretty much square on, and it's feeling very warm, and so he's positioned himself in the perfect place. There you can see VM just showing you where that sun is coming from, so we're getting blasted by the sun, and VM has made himself a nice contraption, because when it's very bright, going to actually find Hosana in his screenshot. So I'm going to take a little photo of VM, and then I'm going to ask VM to show you my photo to all of you. Just hold on, VM, pose nicely, smile, VM. There we go. So this is what VM looks like at the back of the vehicle. He's throwing a little Mara flare into our footage this afternoon from the Sabi sand. So he's got himself a little sugar over the top of his head and over the top of the camera, and there's a little toothy grin from behind the shuka as Veer tries to hide away from this horrible sun. Very nice, Vildi. You look very good. I'm quite impressed with your contraption, and apparently it works a lot better. Vildi, is it much better?
It's cooler as well.
It's cooler as well, and it's much better apparently. Well done, VM. So VM's really made himself the best possible solution, and he's incorporated both of our locations into one this afternoon. Hosana doesn't seem to be too fussed by it. Maybe he's a bit jealous of your shuka, VM. You might have to leave it with Hosana. I would imagine Hosana would be one of those cats that would look quite good in a shuka. Imagine it's kind of strapped around his neck almost as like a little scarf kind of thing that you see dogs sometimes wearing. I think he'd look quite spiffy.
Red is not his colour, he's colourblind.
Is red not his colour? Sorry, VM, I forgot he's colourblind, so red is not his colour, not contrasty enough. You'd have to get, what colour do you think he would like, VM?
A blue one.
A blue one. Blue one with red, or blue just on its own? Blue one with red. Okay, so blue and red is what we're going to go for Hosana. Apparently that's what he's going to be into if he had to have a shuka. But it amazes me how cats go from sleepy, tired individuals to awake, then back to sleep again. So Philip, this is obviously it's a difficult question to answer. It's almost as though it's almost like a how long is a piece of string question. I mean, Tingana theoretically should be starting to get a little bit on the kind of antsy side of having Hosana around. Hosana is starting to get big. He's starting to look quite imposing. He's roaming in the heart of Tingana's territory at the moment, and so I don't think it's too much longer until this sort of relaxed attitude that Tingana's got with the young boys changes, and he starts to get a little bit more grumpy about it. I think at the moment Hosana's also being very clever. He's very submissive every time he's around Tingana. He seems to roll onto his back and kind of just make himself a lot smaller, and he's not really challenging in any way. He's not scent marking, he's not calling, which means that Tingana almost is still seeing him as a young individual, but he's starting to grow and get bigger, and that means that even his behavior is not going to belie his size. And as soon as Tingana realizes that this boy is too big, he's going to start pushing him out and start getting him into a situation where I think we're going to see less and less of Hosana as he gets bigger and bigger. The strange thing is, though, I really thought that by now already we would have seen Hosana being far more nomadic than what we've seen. In fact, he's really stayed on Djuma and in the heart of his mom's territory and been probably our most viewed leopard. And in fact, I would actually love to know who we've seen the most over the last 6 months, but I would hazard a guess that Hosana must be easily double, I would say, all the rest of the leopards that we've had in this area in terms of frequency of sightings in that area. And so I really hope that it's still a while longer until Tingana kicks him out, or Tamba for that matter. And if these boys can somehow manage to escape Tingana's, stick around for another year, who knows where Tingana will be in a year, and who knows what will happen. So that's what I'm hoping for, in a way, is that one of these two boys ends up being the dominant male on Djuma over the next couple of years. Again, much like what Quarantines did a little bit to our east, is maybe one of these two will be able to then forge a territory either south of us on Little Gari area or to the north of us towards Buffelshoek. So that's what I'm hoping. Of course, it's a big hope, and it's a lot to ask, because Tingana is still looking absolutely beautiful and seems to just not be aging at all. If you think that he's a very similar age to Mvula and you look at the two cats, Tingana seems to be in a lot better condition than what Mvula does. And so who knows, I mean, maybe Tingana is going to be one of those leopards that lives for a long time, like the Campan male of Londolozi that went, I think he was about 16 when he died, or 15 and a half, somewhere around there, which is very old for a male leopard. So it'll be interesting. Karin, so with Hosana and his pink little nose, you're wondering, is that nose going to get darker or is it going to stay pink? Well, the thing is that there's a bit of a fallacy in that people think that the nose color can determine age. It's not really true. If you look at Shadow, she's got a very pink nose, and even Tundi has got quite a bit of pink in that nose as well. It's not quite as much as Shadow, but both of them do display some forms of pink in the nose itself, and those two individuals are 11 years old. So I think his nose will darken a little bit, but you never know. It might keep a little bit of that pinkness. He doesn't have quite as pink a nose as what you see on Tamba. Tamba's nose is bright pink, and I actually think Tamba might keep a fairly pink nose for quite a long time, whereas Hosana seems to be darkening already, and I think potentially he might end up with a darker, blacker nose by the time he gets to a dominant individual, but for now still quite pink. And it'll be interesting to see. It's obviously a genetic thing as well, and some male leopards will end up with lightish colored nose and others with much dark. We'll see. At this stage it's still very pink, and hopefully it does stay like that. It almost adds to his character, and it kind of makes his eyes just pop out a little bit more than the sort of darker nose would. But you can see he's absolutely unperturbed by vehicles. He really doesn't mind. It's almost as though he's quite happy and quite sort of comfortable around vehicles. I wonder if maybe the time that's been spent with him as a young individual, he's almost associated vehicles as a sort of comfort area, and that there is no real negative thing about it. And for a male leopard to not even wake up when one vehicle left going on around him, but he's completely at ease with our presence. And I was very surprised yesterday actually when Tayla had that male leopard, absolutely beautiful male leopard, and I'm sure Tayla was doing flick-flacks over the moon, excited when she saw that male. It was really very cool. Now I do apologize that there is a little bit of picture breakup, so what we're going to do is just try and reposition ourselves slightly so that we can try and get rid of that picture breakup.
No treasures yet, still searching, as you can see with the old binocular machine. We got a report that the sausage tree pride was seen about a mile behind us this morning. We've just followed a road that allows us to kind of work this general area. Apparently they were looking very hungry, and they were also trying to hunt some buffalo. So we're just trying to use whatever road access we have to work this general area. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of luck in finding them, but for now it has been fairly quiet, and they've got their work cut out for them, these ladies, because there are not many prey items in this general area these days. So it seems like buffalo are really their main kind of option, and for just two ladies that's quite a task to undertake. They have done it in the past though, but they certainly are not sitting on the most prime lion habitat in the Mara because at the moment there's not much food for them. And interestingly, I'm told there's quite a few areas in the Mara, or just about the whole Mara, where lions actually really can battle in the months when the migration is not in town. So that's something to bear in mind. We may witness tricky scenarios as lioness battle to get enough food for them and their pride. Good afternoon, Ryan. You would like to know how good are lions' eyesight at night? Well, I'm guessing it's not much worse or that much worse than it is for them during the day. It's probably kind of equal. They certainly do have very good nocturnal eyesight, and they forego color vision in order to have good eyesight after dark. Please don't get stuck. That was okay. So yeah, much better than ours, that's for certain. It's also much better than their prey's eyesight after dark. Their prey can also see after dark far better than we can, but not nearly as well as the predators. As an example, I've only had one really good example since I've been here in an open environment after dark, and it was with cheetah. And the cheetah picked up their heads and was staring off in a certain direction. So we zoomed in the camera.
Earlier, good luck on trying to find the sausage tree pride, because they have been hiding away. I don't know where they've gone. For the last few days now, I've gone and I've checked their usual spots and I cannot get them. It is a bit frustrating because they're a lovely pride of lions, as youngsters are so something like hunting, which is always quite nice. Barely any life has been shown with these lions. They're still up and down, looking around. I haven't seen where the other girl has gone. She could have just moved a couple of meters and obviously it's been a tough Monday. And hopefully it hasn't been a tough Monday for any of you that are watching. And if it has, sorry. Hopefully this is making up for it. You hear all the birds now. You hear them just starting to chirp. It's just all of a sudden just picked up. And a few frogs. It's lovely, isn't it? Do you hear that sound? So if anyone were lucky enough, well, not lucky enough, if I ever lost my phone and someone found it, they would find the most bizarre things on there, especially under my voice recordings. The amount of different sounds that I have recorded is crazy. I'm actually going to play some for you while we sit and watch these lions, because I think it could be quite nice. Now I've got to remember where to find them. Extras. Extra, read all about it. Okay, so this is... Something is wrong with my phone. This is the silent sounds. Okay, crickets. I think at one point, one of them, the woodlands kingfisher as well in the far distance. Let's see what... Oh, this is the starlings. Listen to the Rupel starlings at night. Here's some tasty animals for those lions. But they're on the other side of the river. They'll have to get their paws wet. I don't think they'd want that. So that's what we had to sleep through at Silas. That was going on all the time. Johnny Hill wildebeest stampeding. also scared to play this now because I don't know what I've said in this one, if I have said anything. Makes me a bit nervous when I go through things and I do them live and I'm going, oh, that might not be a censored version. Though you'd probably all prefer to hear the non-censored version, now wouldn't you? Now, what I'm hoping is that the zebra that we're seeing across the river, I hope the same thing is going to happen. That there's just going to be a group of them that come down this way, but I'm just scanning behind the car out of view, and everything seems to have disappeared. I'm mainly just seeing some impala now. Oh my goodness, it's got super loud. Oh, we're right next to a little wetland though. Ah, this is going to be beautiful. Actually, I'm also now, you'll see where I'm sitting, not very ladylike, up on the door. But just over here in front of us, I just obviously heard the frogs. I mean, he jumped down. Seb's shouting at me now. I'm not concentrating. He was giving me the evil eye. I was not concentrating. And that little wetland is going to be, wow, it's going to sound like a nightclub in the next 40 minutes or so. The frogs are already starting to get quite excited. It's a pity we can't off-road here because I'd like to go right to the edge of that and then sort of scan around and have a look. It's not particularly deep. It's quite boggy, but it's perfect habitat for frogs. You start to hear them clicking now. Those are the Butka's cacos making that noise, that clicking sound. Ooh. Brian, you're wondering if there was any chance, I'm going to sit back on my chair again, if there was any chance of perhaps finding a honey badger. There's always a chance of finding a honey badger. Where to look is a different story. I have not seen a honey badger here. I've seen everything else pretty much. I'd said, how common are they? And they don't seem to be too common around. You've probably got a better chance of seeing a honey badger around a lodge, maybe in this area, because they will often go and raid lodges, or in South Africa we see them every now and then in the Sabi sand too. My earpiece is not cooperating today. It's very frustrating. I'm going to have to clip it to my hair. You know what we're going to do? I'm going to jump in the car. Well, I was always in the car. I'm just going to jump back down into my seat. Let's go see where that other lioness went, if she's moved out into the open. Reverse. No. There we go. There we go. Managed to get it. Into reverse. Oh, Miles. Hello, Miles. Thank you for your question. And your question is, if I were to jump out of the car, would those lions attack me? No, they're going to run away. They're going to be absolutely petrified if I all of a sudden get out of the vehicle and go charging towards them. If they were on a kill, it might be a slightly different story, but I still think that they would move. And of course, you never want to do something like that unless it's an extreme emergency. So you probably won't see any of us doing that at all. That's the big lion dung down on the ground. Okay, where's this girl gone now? The only thing we can't follow her is she has gone off because we're restricted to... Oh, giraffe! Sebastian! We've got a giraffe and a lion. That's what she's looking at. Okay. Now this is all starting to make a little bit more sense, isn't it? So lion under the tree. Maybe the giraffe caught her attention. Not very far away. I don't think that the giraffe knows that the lions are in here. I don't think a giraffe would like to be caught in such a thick area with big predators, because we know that lions will hunt giraffe. I haven't heard of any giraffe hunting specialist lions though. Occasionally we see them on kills, but it's difficult. It's not an easy animal to bring down, but worth it though. I mean, if you can, they'll just be feeding on it for days. But it'd be a bit tough for these three lionesses though if they were to bring something like a fully grown giraffe down, like this bull. He's actually a youngish bull, not a mature old fella, you know, that's been around the block. He's relatively new, I reckon, to the mating game. He's still got a bit of muscling up to do. Remember, the Maasai giraffe are larger than the southern giraffe. They can get up to 6 meters, so almost an entire meter taller than, or a meter to half a meter taller than the southern giraffe. So if they do take it down and they feed on it, we know there's a big clan of hyenas that hang around here. They might end up getting into a bit of trouble. If there's no big male lions around, they will be pested, they will be hassled by those hyenas, and potentially maybe other lions too. Well, she's also missing the tip of her tail. I saw a lioness this morning, but it's not the same lions. That's to not have the tip or the black sort of hair, which is kind of important because the black markings on their ears and we know on their tail follow me signs. It's often how they see each other moving through the long grass, and I'm pretty sure there's ways that they're communicating with one another through tail movements and all this body language. Of course they communicate through body language. You don't want to be making a sound when you're hunting. There's a giraffe. He doesn't look like his nose are here. Now, as we were driving through just before the baboons, we could see the tops of the heads of the giraffe. So there's a whole herd around here. Big ones, small ones, medium-sized ones. And if they come tramping through here, they might try and go for a young giraffe. There's a hyena. Hyena is just, oh my goodness, I can't believe it, just to the right of the giraffe. Yeah. There it is, just poked its head. Around. I was just talking about you. Can you believe that? Must have heard hyena to this show. The way that nature every now and then goes our way, they think, no, they've just let that hyena out the cage. That is so cool. 3 different species, 2 predators, and the tallest mammal on Earth. Amazing. Not hanging around for too long, though. Just poking its head in just to say hello and then going back off. But maybe it's going to come back. Maybe it was just checking to make sure that the lions didn't have a kill. Like I said, there's a big clan around here. We've seen them before. They would have been the ones that would have taken care of that hippo carcass. Maybe these lions have actually moved down here in the last few days, and that's what they've been feeding on. They've been feeding on the hippo carcass. It would make sense. Reacting, whether he's completely oblivious and too worried about gutsing leaves to not notice that a hyena just stepped on in and that there's lions laying about. Maybe he's not worried. Maybe he doesn't fear them. He's a brave giraffe. Spirulina, you said, what a scene. Yes, it is. And that's what I absolutely love about the bush, is that you don't know. I didn't expect to find the lions this afternoon. Then I didn't expect them to be sitting in such a nice spot. And then to have a giraffe join the sighting. And then on top of it, a hyena. What could possibly happen next? And the answer to that is anything. Hippo could come charging through. That could be the next thing that comes and stirs. It's getting to that time of the day where the hippos are going to start leaving the water and are going to come out to graze. So we could have a 4th mammal join the party. He's looking around, though. He's not looking in this direction. He's looking everywhere else but in the direction of the lions. Who knows? I'm going to start checking the tops of the trees. Maybe there's a spotted cat in one of them. That would be amazing. That would be too good to be true. They're all very quiet for now. Seb, I'm just thinking, should we take a drive to the water's edge quickly, see if there's anything about... We obviously know that these cats are not going anywhere. We're not going to go far, but we'll just stay around this sort of area. It's so pretty. Let's have a look. Maybe we can see some of the hippos just up ahead of us. Wait. Oh, sorry. Let's see very quickly if anybody is going to potentially pop out here. There's a very well-worn hippo trail coming straight up. So I'm just going to have a squiz here. Be nice to catch hippos. Oh, I better not go too fast in case my brakes don't work. That'll be awkward. Go into the Mara River. There is a pod all the way around here. They don't look like they're ready to exit the river just yet, though. But I'm sure they're going to be getting ready. But we're going to hang around within the area of all the different animals, from the giraffe to the hyena, the hippos, and Tristan and his cat.
This side of the world, it's all very stationary and very static and sleepy, and Hosana's being as cute could be with the way that he's lying. He's almost got his kind of head tucked out or underneath him, and he's just sort of taking it very easy. And we see him lying like this quite every time we've seen him where he's been, particularly around the ear areas, see him kind of tucking his head down like that, and those ears almost get squashed up, and that means that things don't go in. So obviously it exposes one ear, but I think it's something to do with that, because I've always noticed it when the flies have been excessively bad that he ends up doing that. And I'm actually surprised that there's not more flies on him on a day like today. When it's hot like this, you often find flies will congregate quite heavily around a leopard or a cat's face, and the reason why even the eyes, especially when it's very bright, there's a little bit of kind of moisture that gets onto the eye area, and they go and then sequester that moisture from there. So I'm surprised he doesn't have more of them, and given also the close proximity. Oh, are you dreaming, boy? Look at that. How cool is that? What do you think he's dreaming of, Vildy? Steak? Impala? I think
Financial collapse.
financial collapse, you reckon? Maybe that's what he's dreaming of. So he seems like a serious fella, so maybe he's at university now and financial collapse is what's weighing on his mind. You can always trust VM to come up with a quite dry sense of humor, and I always enjoy it, I must be honest.